Welcome again to the S.E.M podcast. Jack Bryce and Zach Hewlett are here again, and tonight we're joined by our friend Paul Williams. Paul, it's so good to have you. What part of the world are you calling from tonight?
I am in Portland, Maine. If you can believe that, I think that's the ends of the earth in America, right?
That's right.
Yeah. Everybody always says, man, nobody's from Maine, but I am right now.
Look at that. We're slowly covering that map behind you of people from the Scotland Edinburgh Mission and all the places that they're from. So that's great.
That's cool.
Well, Paul, we talked briefly before. You've been listening to the podcast. We'll talk pre-mission and you're getting the call to Scotland, your reaction to that, and then we'll talk about life since you've been home, and then we'll go back through Scotland, reminisce on areas, companions, and your fondest memories. So I'll give you the time and let you go, Paul.
Okay, well, thanks for having me on. I'm a big fan of what you're doing. Like I was just saying, I love the concept of kind of a connective brotherhood, sisterhood of the mission, and I feel that when I listen to people. So thank you for bringing us together, basically. So pre-mission, I'm actually going to take a bit of time on this, if that's all right, if
Of
you
course.
indulge me, because it's pretty key for me as I look back and process my mission. I'm a convert to the church.
Okay.
So I joined the church when I was 17, and that was a pretty formative, it was a very formative experience as I think about what my mission became. So a bit of background on how that happened. My sister joined the church first. She was 2 years older than me, and her life had really kind of gone off the rails a bit as a teenager.
Mm-hmm.
I'm starting in heavy here. I'm not no holds barred. I'm going right into the heavy stuff. But her life did kind of go off the rails. She got involved with a drug addict and an alcoholic, and it was bad. It was really bad. She ended up running away from home and had a baby with this guy. And at the same time, my family kind of fell apart too. My dad had a mental illness and lost his job. So anyway, as a teenager, my family is just like a mess, right? And I'm watching this happen to my sister, kind of in horror. And then one day, I hear that she's getting baptized into some church. And I remember I was stunned by this. And I remember going to her flat. She lived in a council estate in a little flat. And I remember the first image I ever saw of the church was the Lehi's Dream painting. You know, the one with the classic painting was
Yeah.
up on her wall suddenly. And I was looking at it, I'm like, what is this? And she quit smoking. She quit drinking. She kicked out her deadbeat boyfriend. And she was going it alone as a single mum with a little 1-year-old, and total transformation in her life.
Hmm.
And I was like, this is amazing, right? And the missionaries come in that were teaching her. I remember they came in, white shirts, black name tags. One of them goes, "Hi, I'm Elder Ford. This is Elder Ward." And I was like, what? Elder Ford? What is this? Um, but they sat down and started teaching me, and I just thought they were so cool. Like, I just loved the missionaries and thought they were cool. So I started investigating. Took 6 or 7 months. Loved the missionaries. Was not looking for religion, but I loved meeting with them, and they seemed to like genuinely care about me. Right, that is the first thing it came across. Like, these guys actually care about me, and they have changed my sister's life. Like, probably literally saved her life and my little niece's life. And eventually one day I felt the Spirit and said, I want to get baptized. And had all these doubts, but then I had an experience like you show on the videos, in the mission videos, where someone's praying on the ground and they have a moment where they're like, oh, and the light seems to come on them. That happened to me. It actually happened that way for me. It was amazing. I had this moment where I was just convinced that it was true. And so I went into church the next day and said to the bishop, you know, I had this experience last night, and I think the Lord was telling me something, but I might investigate like the other churches first, Church of England and Catholic or whatever, just to see and be sure. And he goes, Paul, don't do that. You'll offend the Lord. He gave you an answer. You need to get baptized. And I just needed that little push, right? So I got baptized.
That's
And
amazing.
my
Wow.
life was transformed too. Like suddenly I had such a joy, and there were tons of YSA in the ward. By that time I'm 18, and they just befriended me. We'd go to dances in London, and it was amazing. My life was totally transformed, and I found belonging. Like I found this amazing community, and I just idolized the missionaries. And about 2 weeks after I joined the church, solid 2 weeks maximum, the missionaries come over, and one of the zone leaders is on exchanges, and he was a missionary who taught me first, like 6 months ago. Comes back on exchanges, sits down on the living room floor, and he says, "Hey, so when are you going on a mission?"
Wow.
And I don't know what you think my reaction to that might have been, but
2 weeks. Oh my gosh.
brand new. But my reaction was, "Wow, can I do that?" Like I wanted to do it, like immediately wanted to do it. So I began preparing for a mission, and I prepared. Like I went out with the missionaries, I went knocking on doors. They taught me how to do it. I was just in love with this idea of kind of stepping into the shoes of these guys who had transformed my life, my sister's life, um, and showed me the ropes. Some of those missionaries, I'm still in touch with one of them, Elder Boyle, really taught me how to knock on doors. I memorized the first discussion. I mean, I was like primed and ready, right, to go on a mission.
Yeah.
So I got my mission call, but really inexperienced and sort of young in a lot of ways too, right?
Hmm.
So about a year later, I got my mission call in about April 1999. Man, that makes me sound like I'm 3,000 years old. That's how I feel. But I got the mission call. When I first saw Scotland, I was a little disappointed
I'm sure.
because I'm from England, right?
Right.
And Scotland is not glamorous when you're from England. It's like going to Alabama or something if you're from America. I just insulted Scotland and Alabama. I take it back. I can say, having been to Scotland, like any of us, I know you'd say the same. There is no other place on earth I would have wanted to serve a mission. But at the time, I was like, it took me a bit of time to come to terms with it. But then I did. I got really excited. I left in June of 1999, went to the Preston MTC. I believe we were the first group to use that MTC. It was brand new. We may have been the second group,
Wow.
and there were 9 of us in the entire MTC. So it was a very different MTC experience. I was the only one going to Scotland, so I came to Scotland on my own. But MTC was a great experience. President White, I believe, was the MTC president, and he was funny and personable, but also like he drilled into us, you better be obedient. You got to be exactly obedient. If you obey the mission rules, if you work hard, the Lord will bless you and you'll reach people. And I internalized that. I was like, okay, I'm ready. I'm going to do it. So I eventually get on a train. I go up to Edinburgh, and that's a beautiful train ride. Did you guys do the Preston MTC?
We did. Yeah.
Yep.
So you remember?
Thankfully.
Yeah. Do you remember that train ride? Because that's a
Oh,
beautiful train ride.
it was pretty magical. And, in hindsight, in the moment, you're kind of just overwhelmed by everything that you're seeing as you're looking out the window and not really knowing exactly where you are in northern England and coming into the southern part of Scotland. But it was beautiful countryside, and that's really my biggest recollection.
Yeah. I mean, that's like Lake District, and it was beautiful. That's the first time in my life I noticed natural beauty, I think, because you don't really appreciate it as a kid.
Yeah.
I was just blown away by it, just sitting on this train on my own. I show up in Edinburgh. I think it was just me doing the tour and everything. So it was a little weird, but I was exhausted. I remember that. I wasn't jet lagged, but I was just exhausted with the kind of emotional
Yeah.
weight of it. And I'm coming into the mission in Edinburgh like that. Anyway, so that's before the mission. I kind of skipped ahead a bit there.
No,
You
you're
asked
good.
what
Tell me,
post mission?
tell us. Then you got there June of '99. Does that mean you went home June of 2001?
It was July
July.
2001, July 4th. I was
Ah,
liberated from my mission on July 4th.
that's
Um,
great. So take us from the Independence Day
yeah.
2001 and tell us about life since you've been home, Paul.
Oh boy. Well, it was really hard to come home. I took a year to work and apply for school because I kind of dropped everything to go on my mission. Like I had a place at uni when I joined the church, and I just dropped out and went on a mission. I had no plan at all when I came home, which made it harder to come home. So I applied to university, but it worked out. I got into the University of Oxford, which was my top objective, my dream.
Yeah.
Magically happened. Went to Oxford in 2002, October 2002. I met my wife there. She was doing a PhD in cancer research. So she's American, my wife. That's how I ended up in America.
Wow.
She's from
Cool.
the DC area. So we met in the ward, in the Oxford ward. Beautiful, wonderful ward there. Got married within a year. The year I graduated Oxford was 2005. We had a baby, our first baby, 2006, and emigrated to America that year.
Wow.
It was kind of my wife wanted to go home, and I was like, yeah, America's cool, let's go there. And here I am, 20 years later. So then, yeah, I went to law school in Washington, D.C., got a law degree, and was in private practice in DC for about 10 years. And then this job came up in Maine to be in-house counsel. So I've been here for about 5 or 6 years. We didn't know anything about Maine. We just rolled the dice, moved, uprooted to Maine, and we love it. It is just such a good life here. So my kids now are, Catherine is 17, Embry's 14, and Sterling is 9. So
Nice.
Catherine is going to BYU in the fall.
Wow. That's exciting. maybe exciting. I don't know. You could tell me otherwise, Paul. That's a big change in life right there, to go from living at home to being surrounded by the culture of Provo.
I know. She's been out there for she's into theater and dance. She's done dance camps and things out there, so she kind of knows it.
Yeah.
Actually, cool. I mentioned Elder Boyle, one of the missionaries who showed me the ropes. He's now a professor at BYU, and he's I think he's going to take my daughter under his wing at BYU. So there you go. The world gives back to you.
That's a pretty amazing full circle moment, I'm sure, for Elder Boyle to be in that situation where someone that he helped bring into the church, he gets to shepherd your daughter around. That's exciting. Very cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, take us back now to Edinburgh and just start. You can start your first area and companion and go through memories. I mean, if you even wanted to start through additional memories at the mission home, your first day there, if any come to recollection, certainly share those.
So it's President Clyde was my first mission president. Actually, the Clyde and Wilkinson kind of cut my mission in half. So I had one for one half, the other for the next half, pretty cleanly. June, July, I think they switch out.
Mm-hmm.
President Clyde was really just a strong leader, firm leader. I really loved him. He did expect a lot. He could be severe seeming at times. But so he made pretty clear again, like, hey, you better keep the rules. If you keep the rules and do it and work hard, you're in this box and you're good. If you don't, you go to this box and I'm watching you like a hawk. And if you don't do that, you're getting on a plane and you're going home. It's kind of that message. So I internalized that as well. I'm like, okay, I'm ready, and I'm coming with this feeling that I'm stepping into the shoes of something really sacred. These, because in my mind, the missionaries were the means by which my family was just like literally saved. I keep saying that, but that's how it felt. And I felt kind of an awesome weight of responsibility to kind of pay back and go out and find those other people that I could be that for, like the missionaries were for my sister.
Interesting.
So anyway, I was matched up with my trainer. I'll be pretty raw here. I'm not going to sugarcoat the story because that would make it boring. But my trainer and I were a little bit like ships passing in the night, or maybe a head-on car collision. He was. It was tough. It was tough. I think from his perspective, I think he was really trying, kind of at the end of his mission. He was really trying to work hard and be better. And I think my expectations and the perspective I was bringing was so out of left field. He couldn't probably have been expected to understand that, but it wasn't what I was looking for in a first companion. We weren't working that hard. We were going out late. We were staying long at dinner appointments. We weren't keeping on the road. And in my mind, that was like, hey, I've been told that this is what I need to do to be a great missionary. So I was like, hey, I'd like to do it this way. And he kind of was like, oh, you'll learn. And so anyway, that kind of mismatch wasn't great. And it triggered a kind of homesickness for some reason. Like it just so wasn't what I was expecting that I got desperately homesick the first month of my mission. So I was like miserable. Honestly, it was a disastrous start to my mission. I think there's no other way to put it. Really, really trying time. And anyway, I did somewhat naively. I wrote about it in my letter to the mission president. I was like, hey, my companion is saying this. I was thinking we're expected to do this. Any guidance? Anyway, he phoned up my companion and the district leader and read them the riot act, and then they hated me. Anyway, the whole thing
Oh my
was
goodness.
so bad.
Terrible.
I was naive and a bit. I had the kind of zeal of a convert, and anyway, it didn't go well. After 1 month, he moved me to the Shetland Islands.
Wow.
So I don't know if he was getting rid of me or if he said on the phone, "I'm sending you to the furthest end of the mission, and I need to be able to trust you, and I need you to work hard up there." And so off I went up to the Shetland Islands. Did you guys ever serve there in Shetland?
I was close. I got to Orkney, but not to Shetland.
There you go. That's pretty close.
It's pretty close.
I got on a plane. I went to Shetland. It was the first time I've been on a plane in my life. Shetland, I don't know if, I mean, you should watch the TV show Shetland. There's like a kind of, there's like a milk toasty kind of murder mystery show set in Shetland, but you get a flavor of the place. Challenge, go watch that show and see if you can figure out there's one character in the show that has a genuine Shetland accent. All the others are Scottish. See if you can figure it out. There's a different accent, but
the one that's more Scandinavian like, is that right?
Yeah, it has kind of a lilt to it. It's very beautiful, actually, the Shetland accent. But it's, it has its own kind of ethereal beauty, Shetland. And I saw it coming in, on the plane, just like there's no trees anywhere. So it's kind of bare, maybe a little like Orkney, green, rocky coasts, seagulls, the ocean. It felt like, okay, I'm on the Isles of the Sea. This is it. I'm starting over, and met my companion. He certainly said, I really want to work hard and teach, and I was excited. But for some reason, and I've reflected since, I don't know what the deal was, but he just seemed really down. He was really, really down. And I wondered, is this my fault? Like, am I cursed? Am I being such a difficult companion that I'm depressing everyone, but he was really down, and we were together a couple of months, and it got worse and worse, and he just kind of was depressed, and that's the best I can diagnose it looking back. And then one day he just said, "You know what? You just take over, do whatever you want." And by that time, I realized I don't know what to do. Like, I'm not good enough. I'm not experienced enough. I need someone to kind of lead me through this. I was really humbled by that experience. I just remember walking the country lanes, door to door, just staring at my companion's heels. We're working, it's raining, we're working hard, but it was not a happy experience. Um, so by the time he got transferred, I'm there alone on the island waiting for my new companion to come. And I was pretty beat down by that time. I'd had a tough first 3 months of my mission. It was not kind of what I was expecting. And I just remember standing at the dock, watching the ferry come in with my new companion on it. I can feel like I can still feel it, hear the seagulls, you know, the ocean right by the dock, and just praying to God, like, I need you to send me someone who can show me how to do this, who I can connect with. Like, please send me someone to teach me how to be a missionary. And I remember the moment I saw my companion get off the ferry, Elder Zillis, John Zillis was my companion. I could just tell immediately, like, this guy's different. Like, just the way he moved, he was energetic, kind of came running down with his luggage, introduced himself. He was bright and had, like, the spirit was with him. That's how it felt. And that kicked off a wonderful 3 months. Like, the three of us just had such a great time. We connected really well, deeply on a spiritual level. We both wanted to work hard. We both wanted to do it the right way. And he really taught me how to do it. And we had some really good experiences. I remember there was a part member family there. The husband was not a member. His name was Gary. And he kind of just been, it's one of those families, right? The part member family where the spouse kind of tolerates the missionaries. And one day, Elder Zillis, he was pretty bold. He was like, "Can we teach you?" And so he sat down to him the first discussion. And by the end of it, he was just crying. And he was like, "I don't know what this is." And we asked him to be baptized. He said yes. He subsequently backed out of that, got cold feet. But that moment was one of the standout moments of my mission. Like, that was like a apex teaching moment, where the Spirit was like powerfully there. But we also taught others. The teaching pool grew. It was really great. And we baptized someone there. Her name was Leona Jameson. And she was a single mom, had a little kid the same age as my little niece back home in England. So that was my first experience of being someone baptized on my mission. And it was just that was a really precious experience. But
Was the baptism in the ocean?
No, it was in a
Community
swimming
center
pool. Yeah, it was in like the hot tub at the swimming center, as I remember. Because the church there was like a little hut. It was funny because there was just like one room, but the branch president at the time was really like strict and down the line. So he was like, when we split for Priesthood and Relief Society, we each have to have our own opening hymn, because that's what it says in the handbook. So when we split for Priesthood and Relief Society, we pull a curtain, like a felt curtain, not like a proper curtain, just draw it across the room, and we both sing different hymns to start our meetings at the same time.
That's amazing.
What is this?
Wow.
But it was a wonderful little branch. And anyway, I to this day am in love with Shetland. I've been to Shetland mug right here in honor of Shetland.
Awesome.
Because that was really a transformative area for me, and I will always thank Elder Zillis for that.
Yeah.
But then I was transferred. I spent about 6 months there in Shetland. So my first area was Kirkcaldy. I didn't say that. And then I went to Shetland. And then I was transferred to Dunfermline. My companion was Elder Casey Rogers. He was the zone leader. At that time, there were zone leaders and zone leader companions. So the zone leader had kind of a junior companion. So that was me. Um, Elder Rogers was upright and dignified and sort of stoic. He was 6'6". I'm 6'4". We must have been terrifying at the door. And
Yeah.
we accidentally had matching coats too, so it must have just been like the weirdest thing to see us show up. He was a fitness fanatic too, Elder Rogers. He would just eat like oatmeal and oats and stuff like by the bucketful every morning, and was really into running. And there was an amazing family there, the Hargreaves family. The daughter had
Yes.
joined. Do you know them?
Yes, I actually served around them and baptized their youngest daughter Megan while I was there, so I got to know them very well. They're Liz and John are easily my favorite people in the entire world. They're just fantastic. So please tell us more about the Hargreaves, because you've strung one of my heartstrings already, Paul.
Were you in Dunfermline then, or was
I
it a
was.
different area? Yeah.
I served in Dunfermline for 6 months, my mission.
No kidding. That's great. They were just so memorable. I mean, they were so kind of Scottish, right? They were like proper Scots.
Yeah.
And he used to run in this the coal race,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I did it. I did it.
Did you do it with like the bag of coal as well?
Yes. It was awful. I was not fit enough to do it at all, but I did finish barely. Like my bag of coal dropped about 15 yards to the finish line, and I had to pick it up and drag it over the line. I was not going to not finish.
That is still a major accomplishment. Wow. Yeah. So he was big into that. And so Elder Rogers loved this. And he's like, I want to train. So we went running with this guy,
Oh,
Hargreaves.
Yeah.
And I was not very good at that. I wasn't very fit at the time. Elder Rogers was good at that. So that's kind of how they bonded. And so he did a really good job bonding with them. At the time, only one of them was a member, I think, the daughter who was about 15. So I don't know.
Anne-Marie?
Yeah, right. Yes, Anne-Marie.
Okay.
So did others, the youngest daughter join? Did the rest of the family join?
I know that John and Liz did join, the parents. And they were semi-active. Liz and Anne-Marie were the most active when I was there, and then Megan started coming along, and she was taking the discussions and ended up helping her get baptized. And we actually reactivated John, the dad, for a period of time so that he could baptize her, which was fantastic.
Oh my gosh, I love hearing that.
But and then we spent time with Kelly, who was between Anne-Marie and Megan, and then John, who is not at all. He's just the younger of the two. I don't think he ever joined the church, but he was okay with all of us coming around and taking the mick out of us once in a while, which was fun.
Awesome. Yeah, one time when I got back from running, sat down on the couch, and one of the girls, I can't remember who, came over and so my running trousers had like buttons along the side for some reason, and she came over and like ripped them open. Basically ripped my trousers off. Thanks for that. That gives you a flavor of what this family is like. And they were just howling with laughter at me as I'm trying to put my clothes back on.
Yeah, one of John's jokes that he said to me that always rings in my head is I used to get like pimples on my chin, and I had this terrible habit of picking my pimples. And I said one night, yeah, I picked my face and got a mess. He goes, "You picked your face. Why didn't you pick a better one?" I was like, where did that come from? But that is very much the personality of their house. Yes, I ran right into it. It was terrible.
Yeah, they were just such a riot. I loved them. And So I'm so happy to hear. To your point about us being a community, you and I are connected
That's right.
through
That's right.
this family, and that's so cool.
I know. Love it.
We also taught a man named James McKeeman, Kimbo, we called him. So he got baptized when we were there, and I just loved Kimbo. And he was
Nice.
kind of a, how do I say, kind of a blue collar, just down to earth guy. And I remember he loved that scripture in 2nd Nephi 2, I think it is, awake my sons. Lehi and his very kind of masculine discourse for his sons. He just loved that. And I can still hear his voice saying that back to me. So, and I baptized him. But you kind of get a special bond too, don't you, when you physically baptize someone? So that was really nice, and it was a great ward, just a really inspiring ward. They welcomed Kimbo. They had a great Burns night. It was the first time I went to Burns night. I was like, holy crap, Burns night is amazing. And I've tried to recreate it since, but just a great ward too.
Yeah, great ward. Who was the bishop at that time? Do you recall?
I forget his name. He was in his 40s, maybe even late 30s, fairly young. Very impressive bishop.
Was it Daryl Watson?
I don't know. Memory's not good enough.
No, that's okay. There were a lot of young priesthood holders though in the ward that were very actively involved, and again made that ward all the greater just because they were so gung ho about missionary work and really just wanted to see us succeed, which was wonderful.
Yeah, same when I was there. Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
So I was only there 3 months. I think of Dunfermline as a time of flux for me, like personally. I was still kind of weird, like awkward, growing into being a missionary from being a convert and kind of processing how to do that. So I wasn't necessarily at my best there, but that's kind of how it is, right? When you're young as a missionary. But it was a good 3 months. I learned a lot. Then I got transferred to Stirling, and I was a senior companion and a district leader. So I went over there not knowing what to make of that. Like leadership in particular was something I had no experience with. As a teenager, I was just in survival mode, right? I didn't do anything above and beyond. No leadership experience. But being asked to be a leader kind of spurred a deep study of it for me. I would look through the scriptures trying to find examples of like how to be a good leader and all. I kind of soaked up everything I was told by the mission president. And anyway, so I went there to do that. My first companion there was Elder Bryn Loganberg, who I saw that you had his younger brother on the podcast.
Yeah.
Who I don't know, but Bryn, do you know Bryn Loganberg? Probably not.
I mean, just knowing his brother Cameron, obviously, it's pretty easy to know his personality type just by that, for sure.
He is such a riot. I mean, he is one of the most personality-full, it's not a word, but it should be, people I've ever met. And so he was a lot of fun. But I came in a little bit like, I did not come to play kind of thing. So he used to have to kind of trick me into having fun on P-Day. So I'd be like, we're going to work. Let's just go knocking on doors. And he'd be like, what if we go to the castle, but we dress in missionary clothes and talk to people while we're there? So I was like, okay, let's do that. And then we'd go to the castle and he'd be like, oh, look, the sister missionaries are here too. So I really credit Elder Loganberg with helping me to kind of lighten up and have fun. Early on, like the first week we were together, I was really like just driving hard, skipping lunch and having a sandwich for dinner, and we're just knocking on doors, and he was miserable. And honestly, I was too. And one of the members, I remember they remarked on it. They're like, well, I was driving this week and I saw you guys walking, and Loganberg, he looked really unhappy. I've never seen that before. So I was like, okay, I need to dial this back. And so I adapted, and I think we had a great time. He really helped me to find a bit more fun and joy in the work. In the district with me was Sister Smith, Sister Wallace, and then Sister Roper. Great sister missionaries. Really just, I think they could see I was a young, inexperienced leader, and they really kind of lifted me up, and I appreciate that. Sister Smith in particular was a really experienced missionary, and so that was a nice experience too. Elder Loganberg and Sterling, if you haven't been there, did you serve in Sterling, either of you?
No.
No, but I've been there.
You've been there. It's
Exchanges there. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you've got the castle over here on the hill. Over there, there's a Wallace monument on the hill. You've got the rolling green and blue hills. I mean, it is really a picture. And so it's just like a really magical place. When Loganberg left, I trained a missionary, Elder Harwood, Steve Harwood. Really good missionary, came in ready to work. And by that time, I sort of felt like, okay, I feel like I kind of know what I'm doing, got my feet under me, and I'm a trainer now. I really want to do this the right way. So we worked really hard, and I think had a good time. Maybe you'd have to ask him, but I thought it was good. I remember though, I think it was his second day with me. I was like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take him into the Rat Block. And the Rat Block was like this area of town that was so beat down. I mean, it was like apocalyptic bad. Just drugs, drug addicts, alcoholics. You know, half of it was empty because they were clearing it out so they could level it and start over. That's how bad it was.
Wow.
The town was like, we're going to destroy this. So half of it was empty. So it really felt like you could imagine like tumbleweeds going by and, you know, Clint Eastwood showing up. It was kind of like that. We had one family that we taught in there that were kind of on and off. But I thought, you know what? I'll take Harwood in there early in his mission so he sees that this is what our mission is. Like, we go to everybody. If Jesus was here, he'd go to the Rat Block. So I took this poor kid into the Rat Block, and we got chased out by a gang of youths who threatened to steal our shoes. So, not my finest hour, perhaps.
You taught him a lesson in that moment, though, to watch out for the Neds as we know them.
That's it. So poor kid. But anyway, we did have a good experience. We taught a young woman named Kim Bremo. She was Jamaican originally. That one felt to me so exciting because we found her purely through finding. You know, a lot of missionaries kind of thought like, this is a waste this is not very effective use of time. And in a way it's not, right? Knocking on doors. But it's something. And I was like, you know, we got to work hard. Let's do that. And so we found her just, I think, street contacting, like out of nothing. I think that was the only person probably I taught baptized that just came out of nothing. It's usually a media referral or a previous investigator, someone else's work. So it's really exciting to just see her come into the church. You know, a wonderful young woman. She was in her 20s. I'm still friends with her on Facebook, but I'm not sure exactly how she's doing, but she seems to be doing well. We had a couple of crazy people that we taught to who would make us laugh on a regular basis, including an older couple who would refer to Harwood as Harwick. They thought his name was Harwick, and they would say it every time, Harwick, sit down. And he was like, okay. But we did a lot of teaching, and it was great. Elder Harwood moved after about 3 months, and Elder Paxton came and replaced him, Greg Paxton, who you had on recently.
Yeah.
And he also is a character. He's one of the funniest people I have known. His deadpan delivery when he was on this podcast belies this fact. The craziest stuff happened to this guy. And he was a lot of fun, and also helped me again to have a little more fun. I remember my first day tracting with him. I was like, so, tell me, how did you gain your testimony? And he started telling me this story, like his conversion story. And it was really weird. I'm like, where is this going? It was like, I can't remember all the details, but it was really like weird. Anyway, the whole thing just led up to a punchline. And I just fell about. It was like a fake story, he just fed me this totally made up story. And it was the funniest thing. I was like practically rolling on the floor laughing. And I remember another guy, we taught this guy, sorry, these are maybe too many Paxton stories, but he was a lot
No,
of fun.
tell him all, Paul. We want to hear him because he didn't share them, obviously.
Yeah, he shared a couple though.
He did. He had some good ones.
Yeah, we told this guy who was a evangelical of some kind, and he was a nice guy. And every time when we left, we would say the closing prayer, and he did that thing that is common in their faith tradition, but not in ours, where he'd do the affirming. So it'd be like, "Thank you, Father in heaven, for this visit," and he'd say, "Amen, Lord, Amen, thank you," and he'd do that through the whole thing. And then Paxton thought this was pretty great, and then eventually one day Paxton convinced him to say the prayer. So this guy starts praying, and you know what Paxton did.
He didn't.
The guy is like, "Thank you, Lord, for sending these boys." Paxton's like, "Amen, Lord, praise the Lord." And he did this like for the whole prayer, and I'm sitting there just biting my knuckles, like trying not to laugh.
Oh man,
That's what he was like, just
fantastic.
a lot of fun. But we worked really hard too, so it was a nice mix. So I feel like by the time I got the transfer out of Sterling, I'd been there 6 months. It was kind of mixing up fun and hard work, and starting to feel like I'm firing on all cylinders. I'm loving it. I'm just loving the people. I'm loving kind of stepping into the shoes of the missionaries. I still felt like I was trying to honor what had been done for me through the mission program. So I was really, really committed still to doing it right. And once you pass the halfway mark on your mission, that's when you feel like you're doing it. You know what you're doing. So I went to Aberdeen. I was the zone leader in Aberdeen. Again, leadership was new for me. So that felt kind of big. And I wanted to, so when I came to the mission, the AP at the time was Elder Scott Anderson. And he was just like the most amazing missionary. He was like enthusiastic and just exuded love and enthusiasm and hard work. I remember when my train came into the Edinburgh station, he was on the wrong platform because my train came in differently, and he just like leapt up the stairs and was down to meet me and shake my hands and take my bags in seconds, right? My whole mission, he was kind of in my head as an inspiration, as like a leader. So I really wanted to be there as a leader. I thought, I want to lead in an inspiring way. I want the missionaries to see, like, here's a missionary who was a convert, who's been on the other side of it, who loves this gospel, and that's what this is about. That's what we're about to go out and do, is find people like that. So that's kind of how I made sense of the leadership role that was kind of new for me. I enjoyed it, but it was really challenging too. Gavin West was my first companion there, and my second companion was Elder Brendan Stroh, two really great companions. They were more junior, towards the beginning of their mission, I believe, and just willing to work. We taught a lot. I just have memories of going around Aberdeen, knocking on doors. It was fun to be able to pick up the Shetland missionaries and get them to their ferry and remember those days and talk to them about Shetland. The Shetland cabal is a pretty small cabal of missionaries, so it's like a little fellowship. So that was fun.
That's right.
I remember one guy we taught there. His name was Graham Cumming. He was an older gentleman, and he just like he gave us the answers right out of like the missionary training handbook. You know how they'd have those ridiculously unrealistic scenarios in the training book where the investigator says, well, I think that means I should be baptized. That's what he would do every lesson. It was amazing. And eventually he did get baptized. I think it was shortly after I left when he got baptized. But he came into the church and the ward there as well. Did you serve in Aberdeen?
I was there for 6 months as well.
No way. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
I love that ward. So good.
It's a good ward, isn't it?
Yeah.
So when were you there? What years?
I was there summer of 2006 and then went home from there. So went home January of 07.
Okay. I feel really old now.
You're not.
Yeah, you are, Paul.
It's just a number, Paul. Nice
So
job.
that was like 2000 to 2001. I was there, like over the turn of the year, I believe.
Yeah.
But yeah, we taught Graham. He joined the church. There was also a couple there, an older couple, Bob and Kathy. I forget their last names, that we taught. She was a member. She was blind. But did you know Kathy? Does that ring a bell?
It doesn't.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure she was a member and he was not. He was sort of gruff and, but a really just genuine guy. So we'd go out there and teach him, and really connected with them, with Bob somehow, just like gruff old guy. There's no reason why I would connect with him, but I did, and it was nice. So maybe I shouldn't tell the story, but I will anyway. One of the missionaries came with us once from the zone. We brought two of them with us. Elder Clough, Dustin Clough, just another great missionary. But he was young and sort of enthusiastic. He came in and he sits down with Kathy and he's like, "Would you like to see some of my pictures?" Because she's blind. And he somehow had not picked up that she was blind, and we were all like burying our heads in our hands. Like, no, she doesn't want to see your pictures. She just said, "Oh dear."
That's classic. Oh my goodness.
But it was a great ward mission leader, as I recall, and really inspiring time. I was there about 4 months, I believe, 4.5 months. And from Aberdeen, I got the call to go to the mission home to be the assistant. At that point, I had about 6 months left in my mission. So I remember getting the phone call to do this and like crying because I thought my mission is over. This is not what I had in mind. I want to be out like teaching people, and this is different. There was just a lot to process being the assistant to the president. It's a very different experience. But I got on the train, went down to Edinburgh, and my first companion was Elder Chris Rogers, British Rogers. He was a really strong companion. Love Elder Rogers. He was from a similar kind of part of England to me too, so that was kind of fun. It was a lot of work. You're teaching a lot, teaching missionaries, interviewing, traveling to zone conferences, and again, that whole thing just felt too big for me. And so I went back to what I knew, which was, Paul, you are called to just share your unique perspective as someone who came into this church, and the mission program of the church saved your life. And that's what this is about. Teach the missionaries that that's what this is about. So I tried to do that. Chris Rogers was great. He taught me the ropes. There's a lot of ropes to learn. He drives like an absolute lunatic, though. And I'll say this to his face today. He drives like a madman. He would like drive 90 miles an hour, come up behind people and flash his lights to make them get over. He did not muck about. But a great
Seems
companion.
to be somewhere in the requirements for APs in Scotland.
Yeah, it's in the AP handbook. Drive like a lunatic. Um, but he taught me what I needed to know. And then my second companion there was Tyler Snow, Elder Snow, who you also had on. Elder Snow was my last companion, and that was such a tremendous blessing. Couldn't have asked for a better companion to end with. Elder Snow, just like, he looked the part, you know. He had blonde hair, was parted, and he bright, smart. He looked like one of those missionaries in the Call to Serve video. You remember that old video?
That's right.
That's what he looked like, and he was like that too. Like, he just was so enthusiastic. He and I had known each other. Actually, we were zone leaders up in I was in Aberdeen. He was in Inverness, and so when it was time for zone leader training, I think it was in Edinburgh, we would join up, take the train, and go down to Edinburgh. I just remember it was like a 3-hour train ride, and we would just vibe the whole time. We would talk about the gospel and what it meant to us, scriptures, and just instant connection. To this day, we still do, like, texting each other. Just such a gift. So he was a great companion to have. Kind of reminded me of my time with Elder Zillis too. Just a real blessing. So it is an awesome responsibility. You're teaching the new missionaries as they come, as well. The other side of it is that you get to spend a lot of time with the mission president, who is an amazing guy, and that was President Wilkinson. And
Yeah.
this is something that, you know how your mission means something to you a year after, maybe a little different 10 years after, different still 20 years after. And this is something that's taken me a couple of decades to really process and appreciate, that one of the real gifts to me from God was that I got to spend time with the mission president, who was like a father figure to me, something that I kind of lacked at home because my dad was very ill, and that was just I soaked that up, and just being around that, it's hard to describe, but it meant a lot to learn from him and be close to him. I remember one thing stands out in my memory. There was a huge all mission conference with Elder Monson and Elder Worthlin came to visit. And so we had to get the whole mission together at this conference center somewhere, maybe in Glasgow. I can't remember. And it was wonderful. Like, the whole mission is together, right? That's a cool experience in and of itself. And then you're hearing from these apostles. And I remember, for some reason, I remember this. It was our job to make sure the missionaries had their lunches. And we had the lunches on the vans that were parked way down in the parking lot. And there was a screw up. Like, we couldn't get the vans to the missionaries. So I was like, we have to get the missionaries to the vans, or they're not going to eat all day. So we rounded up the entire mission, and, like, from this conference center, marching down the street to the vans that were at the other end of the town. It felt like. I just remember turning around and looking at like 180 missionaries and just thinking, A, I hope I know the way, because if I take a wrong turn, that'll be really embarrassing. But B, just feeling such an intense feeling of love for all of those missionaries. Like the similar feeling I had when I was a convert and loving the missionaries. And now here I am in such a different role, serving alongside these missionaries with the name tag on, and just seeing those missionaries and having the opportunity to visualize everyone all at once like that was a precious moment, even if it seems kind of obscure.
Wow, that's cool.
I also remember I did an exchange. So it's kind of tough when you do exchanges, right? Because you're just there for a day, and what can you really do in a day? But I remember going on an exchange in Inverness with the zone leader there, and we went street contact. We walked across the bridge. We parked at the church. We walked across the bridge, went into the town, street contacting. No success. We're walking back. I'm tired because you don't get a lot of sleep when you're doing the travel. And I'm like, Just go back. And I remember walking across the bridge. This guy is walking towards us. I just thought, I'm not going to talk to this guy. We did our bit. Let's go. Let's go. And then at the last minute, just feeling one of those feelings, inspiration, like, talk to this dude. You got to talk to this dude. So I kind of threw out my hand. It's like, hello, sir. Can we talk to you? We talked to him for like 30 minutes, maybe, gave him a Book of Mormon. That was it. And that guy got baptized like a month later. I went back on exchanges, and the missionaries didn't even tell me that it was getting baptized. They were like, hey, can you do an interview? Come in here and interview this guy. I sit down and I'm like, what the heck is this guy? And
That's amazing.
so that was just really nice. It's like, okay, this wasn't all like a waste of time. Like, if the Spirit inspires you, all it takes is a minute, and you can be there and change someone's life.
Yeah.
So that was nice.
I had an experience like that as a zone leader. We went to Stornoway. The elders there were not having a lot of success. The first door I knocked on, I did a little door approach, and I said, "Can we come in and share more?" And of course, they let us in. And the missionaries were like, "How did you do that?"
Dumb luck.
I got really, really, really lucky. Exactly. That's funny.
That's great. I do believe that, though. The Spirit goes around just preparing the way here and there, and that's what I went on my mission to do. So, that we did the easy part, though. Like, the missionaries had to teach them and bring them into the church.
That's true.
But I sort of getting to the end of my mission, a sort of panic started to set in, because I did not want it to end. I loved it. I found a place I belonged. I'm working with great people who seem to care about me, and I care about them. I'm changing lives. I loved it, and I didn't want it to end. And as my mission wound down, I started to feel some things kind of come full circle, and just feeling this inspiration, like, tell the missionaries, like, tell them, like, you're a convert, help them to see what this is really about. And so I tried to do that. I gave a talk in the zone conferences where I tried to convey what it was like to be a convert, be taught by missionaries. There's a real kind of good, better, best thing with a mission. It's good to think it's really important. It's better to think it's like the most important thing in your life. And it's best to realize it's the most important thing in someone else's life. And that's the key to me that I felt like I had to get across. Like, this isn't about you or me. It's about the people you're out there teaching. You may literally save somebody's life out there. And so being able to share that, get that off my chest with the missionaries at the end was a nice kind of feeling of closure. The AP role kind of changed in the middle, though. Elder Hillam came to visit of the 70, and he didn't muck about either. Like, he was pretty severe, if I must say. And he was like, your AP should be out teaching, to send him out to teach. So we started going out. Elder Snow and I would go out and teach in our own area and do all this traveling. We were just like wiped out. It was so exhausting. But I got back to teaching, which was great at the end of my mission. And I remember we taught this young girl. She was about 9 or 10. Technically was a convert, but was actually a member family. She joined the church. So that was just like a nice little gift. Like, hey, at the end of your mission, you get to teach and baptize one more person. I remember the mission president saying, hey, that little girl someday could be the General Relief Society president, for all you know. And he's right. And so that was a nice thing at the end. I remember my last day, or my penultimate day, we took the new missionaries out. That was our job, pick new missionaries out. So it was my last time. I took a new missionary out. We went out in Edinburgh and just had like an amazing experience. Like, everything worked. People let us in. We gave away several Books of Mormon, and he came back just on cloud nine, and I felt on cloud nine. I was like, yes, man. And I came back and was like, I'm not ready to be done. So I called up one of the zone leaders who was coming in the next day, ending his mission at the same time as me, because I kind of extended out a few weeks. So I ended with people, even though I didn't come in with anyone. And I said, listen, there's a dinner, but there's a few hours before dinner. Let's ditch it and go do some more tracting and street contacting. And he was like, okay, fine. So he agreed to come in, and off we went. And I remember just leaving the mission home for the last time. The new missionaries are meeting their trainers upstairs. I looked up at them and just thought, you guys are so lucky. You're at the beginning. And off we went. And we had a not successful time. Like a couple of hours, like nothing worked. Nobody let us in. Nobody talked to us on the street. And I just thought, Paul, it's over. It's over. The mission's done. And so I came back to the mission home, and I was just a wreck, And President Wilkinson, I remember my final interview with him. He just kept saying to me, your mission is complete. Your mission is complete. And he even said that in a testimony meeting with the new missionaries. Elder Williams' mission is complete. He's like trying to tell me, like, dude, you're done. Time to be finished. And I just remember crying a lot. And then it was over. I remember I was at the airport, and the Wilkinsons are on the other side of the gate. And I was, when the plane took off, I was looking out the window, just crying, and I seriously felt like something left me when I took off and came home. And I had a very, very hard time coming home because I wasn't prepared for it. I had no plan, nothing. It all worked out, but it was a tough year, and I just was processing what it all meant. And as I look back on it, it is a time, I think of it as a time of enormous learning, change, growth, closeness to God, testing, trial, just a joy that you can't experience in any other way, in the same way, really. And that's how I look back on it.
Amen.
Yeah, that was wonderful. Man. Thank you, Paul, for sharing. You shared a few of your recollections of your memories of your mission presidents. Do you have any others that stick out about the Clydes or the Wilkinsons?
I do. This is a moment I will never forget. So President Clyde, winding back to the first month of my mission, I was having just a rotten time, and I went to his zone conference, and he did an interview with me, and I was like just trying to get some inspiration. He gave me a blessing. I don't remember if I asked for it or if he offered it. I don't remember what the blessing said, but I remember that I was crying like a baby by the end of it, and there was like tears coming down, like snot coming out. I was like so embarrassing, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, where's the tissues? How do I get out of the situation? He's going to shake my hand. I got to leave. And he just grabbed me. I can still feel his hands like grabbing my elbows. He just grabbed me, and we were like not far apart. He's just looking at me in the face, my pathetic baby face. And he just said, Elder Williams, I need you to be a leader. I need you to set an example. I need you to be strong. I need you to keep working hard. Can you do that? And just that mix of like love and strength together, it just seriously felt like, yeah, this is what God is like. It felt like that, like a moment of almost experiencing God, like strong and loving all in one. And so I'll never forget that moment. President Wilkinson has so many things I could say. He was, oh my gosh, such an amazing man, funny, inspiring, very different to President Clyde. So many, I really felt like he was a father figure. He cared about me, and he and Sister Wilkinson really cared about the missionaries like children. Like people say that, but they really do. They do feel that way. I remember one time one of our missionaries passed away. I can't remember why. Well, actually, we didn't know why at the time. And I just remember Sister Wilkinson on the phone getting the news and just bursting into tears and putting her hand to her mouth and handing the phone over to me and just backing away like she had lost a child. I just, in that moment, I was like, oh my gosh, these people, for some reason, these people really love us. I also remember one time, President Wilkinson, so in the mission, in the AP's flat, it was attached to the mission home, and there was an adjoining door between the AP's kind of bedroom area and the mission home upstairs living area that never got used. Right, it was an adjoining door that we couldn't open from our side, but they could open from their side. Anyway, one day I remember waking up in the middle of the night, and I'm like foggy, and there's like light streaming in, and someone's standing there in a robe, and I'm like, it's Moses. Moses has come to give me a message. But he's talking. He's delivering a message. Anyway, as I gradually wake up, I realize it's President Wilkinson. He'd used the adjoining door to come in. That was the flood of light. He'd come in the middle of the night. There was some emergency that we had to go take care of. And so anyway, that's a less sacred experience with him. But he was just a real father figure to me.
Oh, that's wonderful. Well, Paul, it's been awesome to have you come on and share your experiences of the Scotland Edinburgh Mission. It's
Thank you.
Like we've talked about from the beginning of this conversation. We're all connected in such an amazing way through that magical land. And this podcast doesn't happen without individuals like yourself coming on and sharing your experiences, being open and willing. So thank you again for giving us your time tonight. It's been a true pleasure.
Yeah, me too. Thank you for providing the opportunity. It gave me a chance to kind of reflect on it, 25 years since I left on my mission. And thanks for what you're doing to kind of create that brotherhood, sisterhood of the S.E.M.
Absolutely. Well, one other thing that we always like to ask is there anybody in particular, whether it's companions or otherwise, that you want to call out, shout out, get them on this podcast to come and do exactly what you've just done with us tonight?
Oh my gosh, I would love to hear from any of the missionaries from my era, any of those missionaries I mentioned, companions. Oh my gosh, I would love to hear from them. Guys, you have to get Brent Loganberg on here.
Okay.
He is so fun. I think he's an air traffic controller now.
Wow.
I think he's in Scotland too. I think he lives there now. But
does he? Okay.
He's great. I'd love to hear from the sisters too. Back then there were fewer sisters, but so it's harder to get them on. But Sister Smith, in particular, you could get a twofer because she married a missionary. She married the district leader who preceded me when I moved to Stirling.
Really?
Yeah, there was romance in the air. So you get a love story on here too if you get her involved. And Elder Cook, so it's Sister Cook, Elder Cook, Sister Wallace.
Be fun.
They were wonderful, and they could tell some good stories.
I love it. That's fantastic. Well, and the other thing that we ask of you, Paul, is share this with those that are in your network. Put it on your Facebook page. Share it with your friends, your family. It's so incredible to see how far-reaching this podcast has come from the word of mouth. So don't be afraid to share it, because I know that those who will listen to it will get something from it, just as much as we all have here listening tonight. So, and we do love referrals. So as you were a referral from Elder Snow, definitely put us in contact with those that you're still well in contact with, and plug them in. We'd love to get them in our schedule here in the future.
Yes, definitely will.
And the final thing to say, as you've heard, as we express on this podcast, we love you. We're so grateful that you are one of our brothers in Scotland. We're so grateful that we were able to follow in your footsteps You were a few years ahead of us, but that doesn't matter. You made an impact on that land and allowed us to continue to reap the harvest that you had put in place. So thank you.
Thank you for continuing it. We saw some specific examples today, but there are probably many others. And thank you. I feel part of that brotherhood, sisterhood that we have, and it's so great what you've done here.
Thank you. Well, as we sit here, I'll let you know that we're going to try and get this published here this week. So I'll be in touch with you pretty soon, so we can get all the edges rounded out and get it all put up for everybody to listen to. So. But in the meantime, we'll say a hearty cheerio to you, Paul, and we'll certainly talk more soon, all right?
Thanks. See you guys.
Cheerio, mate. Right.
Bye.